that is a philosophic concept of essentially being a passive observer, but observing with intent. And it is uh, it is interesting, and it's something most people have. Most people have. Well, it's what most people don't do. They're invested emotionally and stuff. And the response is rather funny. This is why I wanted to read this off, because the first line of the response is, sounds like the average news reporter to me. Like, okay, now, that's not so true anymore, is it? So, which, which I find rather interesting that somebody would report something like that. Yeah, yeah. Anyhow, the rest of this gets into the philosophy of it, but um, but talking about like a news reporter, the idea of a news reporter is to not be invested in the thing, but to observe, understand it, understand its communication, not necessarily understand the topic, but understand how to convey it, and then blandly report on it. And that's what news used to be. Now it's opinion news. It's kind of a variation of uh, edutainment. Edutainment is taking education and trying to make it interesting and exciting and entertaining. And sometimes, man, in kind of the dark ages of computers, there was a lot of edutainment software, and the idea is you turn it into a video game and have the video game forces learning in its mechanics. So it's like um, word games to understand words, and like there's some bad stuff out there, and I probably blocked it out of my memory. It was never popular, so it's not like I'd go out of my way to go and get any of this stuff. Um, but there's a variation of that with opinion news reporting, which is a thing happens, and the person that's presenting it is is presenting it via their opinion, which is useless. It's an incredibly useless thing to do. It's like I've talked about microphone. If you've got a microphone that's flavored, that's not authentic. Whatever is talking into that microphone, you're not getting the authentic reproduced sound. And you're listening to it. Are you listening to it in a room? Well, the room is messing with the sound. Are you listening it to your headphones? Where are your headphones playing, or are they themselves trying to manipulate the audio to make it sound good? Well, news is the exact same thing. You get some story by person A collecting it, then an editor in between, and then it's presented to this other person who may it's the skit that it's being performed on news is often written for that person, and sometimes it's uh, there are little twists while it's being spoken, but it may or may not be that presenter's actual opinion. They're the actor, and so the news is being mangled by all this stuff until it's like from it's edutainment. It is the variation, the I think it's rather negative for a video game to do this kind of stuff, and the news is kind of the same way, where you're not getting the authentic reproduced sound, the authentic you're not getting a game, you're getting something else that's been spun for a purpose. And news is very much like that, because people on couches need to be engaged. And this is why some topics are more quote unquote newsworthy than others, and the topic would have to be presented. And there's this notion of, I don't know if you've ever heard it. What is it called? Is it the 15 minutes of fame? Is that the expression? And the 15 minutes of fame is kind of like attention span. And there's another thing called a news cycle, which is kind of like a period of time where there's a fad that comes in with a set of news, and it gets kind of passed around to all the news agencies, and they pick up off of one another, and each one wants to be the most interesting person talking about that thing to get all of the brand recognition, to get people to change brands to their news organization or whatever the heck, to get all the attention, to get all the whatever the heck. And they're all trying to make it as engaging as possible, not necessarily as high quality as possible, not necessarily as, you know, uh, as authentic as possible. And so the idea of the like 1960s news reporter that just like that is kind of boring but completely flat and honest and authentic, the that idea is so long gone. And the idea of lucid indifference in like an everyday person is probably absent these days because not too many people know how to listen without having this their opinion color it in a sense.